Well, the importance of it is this, that to know that you are God is another way of saying that you feel completely with this universe. You feel profoundly rooted in it and connected with it. You feel, in other words, that the whole energy which expresses itself in the galaxies is intimate. It is not something to which you are a stranger, but it is that with which you, whatever that is, are intimately bound up. You express that which it is which moves the sun and other stars. I am, I'm in everything, I am everything, I am everything, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, I'm in everything, I am everything, I am everything, I am.
Welcome to Talk is Cheap, where cheap is talk and talk is cheap. I'm your host, Dan Hohlfeld. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. This is Saturday, July 14th, 2018, and we are live. I also want to let you guys know that we are now on Spotify. This is a pretty big step. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and now Spotify. So if you'd like to listen to the program over there, you can do that as well. And we much appreciate your subscription as well. So my next guest is a revolutionary hip-hop artist, author, and speaker, and is now also the host of TruthSeekah Podcast, a weekly show that discusses spiritual, esoteric, and metaphysical topics, and is designed to help you grow on your spiritual journey. And I want to say this is awesomely produced. I subscribed to it myself. He's talked about some magic mushrooms the other day. That was pretty interesting there. So it is TruthSeekah. Thanks for joining me today.
All right, thanks for having me on, man.
So we were playing I Am in the intro there. That's one of my favorite songs by you. We're going to play a couple more in the podcast here as well. But first, I actually want you to get into your background, how...
Oh, definitely, man. Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to come on here and share my story with your audience and my work and all that good stuff, man. So thank you for that. Yeah, started out just as any other kid who was going down the wrong path, misguided youth, troubled youth. I got into gang activity and things like that as a young age, and was really into the paranormal and the occult, just doing research as far as like getting into any type of books that I can find, studying the Satanic Bible, all types of books about Wicca and summoning demons and things like that. So was interested in that type of stuff as a kid. And I think what pushed me in that direction was just watching a bunch of horror movies as a youth. And then I had an encounter with what we call shadow people or sleep paralysis when I was just a small child. I think I was like 4 years old. Remember waking up in my bed as a kid, being pinned down, and these two big beings pinning me down on each side, and I couldn't move. I don't know if I couldn't move, but I was too scared to move. I
don't blame it. We've talked about them on the show before. This shadow beings. If you saw something like that, it creeps you out. Some people they saw teeth, red eyes.
Yeah, you hear all these stories, man, about it. The last episode I just did with a good friend of mine, Danny, we talked about that for a good part of the beginning of the episode of what's going on with the shadow people and witches. People call them witches, or the old hag syndrome. Some people talk about an old woman screaming in their face. And I've seen a lot of weird stuff as a kid, but like nothing freaked me out more than that. And I was just a little kid. So that kind of shapes your reality, shapes your experience. You start growing up and that experience is always there. So do you talk to anybody about it? Do you talk to your parents or friends? And then, we would have sleepovers as I grew up and with my cousins and stuff. And we would mention it. Hey, you guys ever woke up in the middle of the night and been pinned to your bed? Just crazy question. And they're like, yeah, I had that happen. Or I remember even, it's so popular now, but when you were studying all of this stuff, like hearing about what they call the man with the top hat and the trench coat. But I remember my cousin telling me when we were like early teenagers, man, and talking about seeing this silhouette of this person standing in this hallway watching him with the trench coat and the top hat. And then you start listening to Coast AM as an adult and start getting into this research, and there's a character that has approached many people in the middle of the night that wears the top hat and the trench coat. Like, who are these people? Who are these beings? What are they? And so it just kind of, when you have those encounters, it marks you. And I really think that at this point, that people who have had those encounters as children, that whether you want to say it's the devil or just the other side, the negative force, that something's kind of marking these people to scare them away from spirituality. Most of the people who I've talked to have had these encounters go on to do like great exploits and like in the healing arts and spiritual teachers, or or become pastors or things like that. And they all have these stories that when they were kids, something happened to them. They were approached by some type of beings in their room in the middle of the night. So that definitely marked me. So that's my story, my truth. And like I said, starting growing up and getting fascinated with movies that embodied that stuff in the movies, and the paranormal movies from the 80s and 90s. And one of the movies that really pushed me over the edge, I think, was a movie called The Craft. Came out in the 90s about these teenage girls getting into some type of witchcraft or Wicca at school, and they had these supernatural powers and things like that, and it became real, and it painted it as something beautiful. So I just started finding all these books, Satanic Bible, witchcraft books, whatever, doing these rituals, and ended up meeting a warlock in my area who had a bunch of parties at his house every weekend. All these teens would show up and spend the night, and everybody's drinking and smoking and hanging out. So there was like a regular hangout spot on the weekends. But I wanted to, every time we hung out, I'm just picking his brain about the dark arts, asking him about, what have you seen? Have you seen the shadow beings? Have you seen these demons or entities or angels? Like, what have you seen that will kind of pique my interest even more? And so we'd pick his brain for hours or whatever. So,
yeah, that's one of the things. It's like you kind of think you're the only one experiencing this, and then you start talking to other people, and then, like you said, you heard it on Coast to Coast. You realize how big this phenomenon actually is.
Even the far out stuff, man, just stuff that you don't think anybody's experienced, and you got to start talking about it. You got to start asking people, and weird stuff, man. The stuff that we can get into UFOs and stuff in a little while, but just different type of craft or spirits or things flying throughout the air that other people have seen, but there's no like healthy place to talk about it. That's why podcasts and YouTube channels like yours and mine and Coast, like what's happening? Is it their ancestors? Is it ETs? What's going on? So to be able to ask those questions, man, I think that all of us have a piece of the puzzle, and we bring our pieces together, and it starts to formulate a picture. And so that's just my story, and all my guests, my friends, and so kudos to people, what I'm saying, like yourself, who's willing to have this conversation, and because you get ridiculed, you get laughed at. You're into what? You guys are doing a podcast haters about what? This guy does what? You got all that stuff that comes with it. So getting into the occult, talking to the warlock, we called him Pops. He was an older gentleman. I moved away for some time, but was still dating a girl who lived in the area. So I was going to come see her for just for the weekend. For my birthday, my mom was going to bring me down and drop me off with a friend. I was going to stay with my friends and hang out with her just a weekend. She was going to pick me up Sunday night. She dropped me off at some friend's house, and I started to steal a bunch of the belongings of my friends, CDs, T-shirts, video games, and stuff like that, because I knew that after the weekend, my mom would come get me, bring me back across the state lines, back to Louisiana.
And these are your really good friends?
These were my friends. Yeah. I was staying with them. I would stay with one of them, and the next night I would go stay with another one. Then the next night stay with another one. Then, Sunday night I'm leaving I wasn't living here anymore. It was just like a visit thing. So I had a bunch of stuff from one friend. He said the next night stay with another friend, took T-shirts, bunch of CDs. So I had this huge duffel bag full of these different belongings that they had. So Sunday night came around. My mom called, said she couldn't come get me because her car broke down. So I had to find somewhere else to stay. So we stayed that night in my girlfriend's treehouse. She was living with her parents, so me and my cousin snuck in her treehouse and stayed there. So she was supposed to come the next day. Car's still messed up. You need to find somewhere else to stay. See if your friends will let you stay. Ended up staying with the warlock the next night. When I stayed with him, I stole something from him. He had some video games and stuff. I took one of his video games. It was a Dungeons and Dragons video game for the NES. I remember, and I took that, put it in my duffel bag, and I had my duffel bag hidden across the street in my friend's closet. So when my mom came, hey, it's time to go. I'm going to run. Hold on one second. Go get my bag out the closet hidden and stuff. All these people there, I don't know half of them. Me and my cousin were sitting in the living room with all these other people. They're getting ready to smoke a joint. They light it up, begin to pass it around, and all these people there I don't know. And somebody walks in the door, one of our friends, and he has the Dungeons and Dragons video game, and he hands it to Pops, the warlock. And I thought we were going to get jumped for stealing from those guys because they're all in the gang activity, and they were really deep into Insane Gangster Disciples gang. There's folk and a bunch of mysticism mixed in with it, some Masonic stuff, and reading the Bible upside down and stacking crazy knowledge about demons. So they're really deep into it. So I thought we was gonna get jumped. The Pops looks at this other guy. There's all these older dudes there wearing all black. I've never seen these guys, with a bunch of teenagers, young adults. They look at each other and kind of nod their head, and one of them gets up and walks to the back of the house. I thought he was going to go get a baseball bat or something. The next person walks, and then just one at a time, they're all going to the back. I don't know if they're devising a plan, but I got to get out of there. I know.
I'd be so freaked.
I was super freaked, man. I told my cousin, I said, look, we got to go, man. We got to get out of here. He's like, why? All these girls, all these people, alcohol and drugs. I said, no, we got to go now. The night was young. It was like 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And he said, why? I said, man, just go. So we get up and all right, everybody, we'll be right back. We walked outside. I said, bro, we got to get out of here, man. He said, why? What's going on? I said, I stole some stuff, and they brought it in, and the guy knows that I stole it. We're probably going to get jumped. He said, oh, man. So I kind of panicking or whatever. So there was this guy talking to some girls around his car. He said, hey, can you give us a ride down the road? He said, sure. He brings us back over to where my girlfriend was living, and drops us off down the street. So we're going to try to run to the treehouse and just stay in the treehouse another night. I was 13 when all this stuff was taking place. So he ends up dropping us off. We walk down the street. We're looking at the treehouse, getting ready to make this like dart to the treehouse so her parents wouldn't see us. So we had to try to be quiet. But there was a light in the yard, kind of going back and forth throughout the yard. And we're watching that light, and that light seemed to kind of like hypnotize us. We were looking at it. I thought it was her dad walking around with a flashlight, but the sun started to go down and it started to get dark. So it's like, well, we're going to have to go around the side, and we need to go ahead and make a run for it. Because I'm telling you, I think we stood there maybe 30, 45 minutes watching that light. We go around to this field around the side of a tree line to get ready to go. And about that time, the wind blew, and this entity appeared. It was 8 foot tall. It looked like a camel. And it ran past me and my cousin and knocked both of us down and screamed and disappeared when it knocked us both down.
So could you describe it? Was it like actually like, did it look physical, or was it kind of like see-through? When it's like a shadow, but it's darker than a shadow. It's like darker than, it's almost like, because when we talk about these type of entities and the shadow beings and the shadow people, when people see them in their room, a lot of times their room is really dark, but it's the silhouette that's darker than the darkest place in their room. So even as it's getting dark, whatever, you could still see it. So that's what it looked like. It was just like a solid black figure, about 8 foot tall, that looked like a camel. The closest I don't even know I don't know if it was the embodiment of a camel or a horse or something. This huge thing ran past us both, knocked us down, screamed, and freaked us out. We got up and ran and went to the treehouse. And from that moment on, like, all this weird, eerie stuff started happening around my girlfriend's house. And you would think that would push you away, say, hey, don't play with this stuff. These guys can sick entities on you, But me, what I'm saying, being young and dumb, I was like, well, you know what? If they can do it, if I get good enough, I can do it. I can, actually make an entity manifest and go out and get my stuff. And to come to find out, that's what happened. I talked to him several months later.
I talked to Pops and I apologized and said, hey, what happened, man? What was that? And he told me, he said it was an elemental spirit that they summoned, that they had a protection spell on their belongings, that it would go out and get the stuff and bring it back, and it would go out and torment the people that stole the stuff. And I was like, that's pretty cool, man. So, you know, ended up going back to Louisiana, and my cousin didn't come with me. A bunch of stuff happened, it got really weird. So I'm living in Louisiana living with my mom and my brother, but my mom worked late nights at the bar room and my brother usually wasn't there. So I would be in the middle of the woods. We had a little trailer way out in the woods, and I'd be out there waiting for them to come home, because I've been reading witchcraft books and doing satanic rituals by myself as a teenager out here in the trailer, man. And that's where like stuff started to kind of get weird. I would hear like animals screaming in the woods, and it got really crazy, because I would be sitting on the couch watching TV, waiting for my mom to get home, because I'm scared to turn the lights out and go to sleep after having these type of encounters. And I would feel the wind blow through the house, and it was just like something out of a scary movie. It would start whispering. You couldn't understand it, but it's like this whisper coming through the trailer inside the house at like 12 at night. So that stuff would freak me out, man. And but I wanted more. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to make friends with these type of entities. I wanted to see something, and it was all.
You wanted to harness the power.
Yeah, if you had to go through that, and I'm not scared, but that stuff's scary, man. I don't care what anybody says. I know it sounds cool, and the thing about it is, what about being cool is like that movie I'm talking about, The Craft. They made it look cool. They made like there was very similar scenes to all of this stuff I'm talking about in that movie, but it was all beautiful. Like, oh my God, connect with the spirits who are whispering to us, but they're like speaking. Was doing all that stuff as a teenager, and so I ended up getting out there, man, really far out to a place where I didn't want to be. I tried to reach my hand into the other side and try to grab something, and something reached back. And like I said, I was 13 years old. I think I was like 14 at this point, 14, 15, because some time had passed. But ended up going crazy, man, almost going schizophrenic. I started hearing voices in my head, and those spirits would like try to speak to me throughout the night, wake me up, and I could never understand them. I'd be watching TV, just in the middle of the day with my girlfriend. We're living somewhere else at this point. And I would go into a trance. They would pull me into some type of realm, and my body would turn pale, get shallow breathing. I'd turn cold, and I would just go to this other place where I would see all of these flying spirits, these entities, colors, shapes. I would hear them talking to me. It scared me. I couldn't breathe. And then I was
when they were talking to you, was it pretty negative, evil?
Well, I couldn't understand it. It was like a whole bunch. It was like a whole bunch of people talking at once. You know, and I couldn't make out anything. It wasn't like I can get a message or make it out. And I don't know if they were speaking English. It sounded like they were speaking foreign languages. Or
even subconsciously probably giving you some kind of a download or putting it in your subconscious there.
I just got chills when you said that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's freaky.
But, you know, and it got me to a place I didn't want to be, man. We would go out to town to get something to eat, and I couldn't look anybody in the face to order my food. I always felt like everybody was looking at me, and you know, I think they were looking at me, but it was just really tapped in to the spirit realm, and it was crazy. I was going schizophrenic, and I had to whisper in my girlfriend's ear if I wanted to order something at McDonald's or something like that, you know. And my health got really bad. I was like coughing up blood daily, just coughing up blood. It just got real bad. So anyway, I was at a place where I knew I didn't want to be, because a couple years before that I had got saved at a Bible study. My mom's boyfriend at the time, her son was a devout Christian and was always asking me to come to church and come to Bible studies. And I didn't want nothing to do with that. I was really more into the darker stuff. And so he just kept asking me to come. I didn't want to go. Finally, he told me, he said, look, you should come to this Bible study. There's going to be a prophet there. I said, well, what's a prophet? He said, well, prophet is like a Christian psychic. He said, I think you'll like it. I'm like, shoot, a Christian psychic? Sure, why not? So I went there to the Bible study. This was several years before. This was actually in 2008 when this encounter happened. went to the Bible study, seen everybody listening to worship music, and everybody had their eyes closed praying, and it looked like they were in some type of a trance state, like they were in another place. A lot of people were crying. They're just in this beautiful ecstatic bliss state, man. And one of the guys came up to me and just said, he said, "Derek, do you want to ask Jesus to forgive you of your sins?" I was like, yeah, I had done a lot of stuff in my a few years on the earth, and said, yeah, I want to ask for forgiveness. So he led me in a prayer of salvation, just asking Jesus come into my life, cleanse me of everything I've ever done, and come into my life. And when I fire in water, almost like cleaning out every bad thing I've ever done, and that feeling was so beautiful. I was crying and weeping, and that was in 2008. I did the Christian experience there. We would do prayer meetings and stuff like that every other night, and but when I started going to school, I immediately got with the wrong crowd, and I didn't really have a foundation there. So the Christian thing flew out the window, got into the New Age. 2 years later, here I am, freaking out, going crazy, spirits speaking to me, talking to me, pulling me in trances midday. Told my girlfriend, said, look, I got to give this up. I need you to pray with me. I got to get back to God. Like, this stuff is freaking me out. I'm going to die, So she prayed with me one night. I was having an episode, and the next morning I woke up feeling good. I went into our room, and I took all of our posters, all of our T-shirts, Manson T-shirts, Korn, Insane Clown Posse, anything that had to do with the occult, and had posters everywhere. We had altars with idols with gods and goddesses and all of this crazy stuff. Took everything, threw it all away. All my CDs, threw it all away. I threw everything out the house. She's freaking out. What are you doing? I said, I got to give it up. I'm done. I'm done with this. I got to give my life back to God. So she's freaking out. I'm throwing everything that we own pretty much away. And she, freaking out. She said, I can't believe in Jesus. I said, no, we need to give our lives to God. I have to come back to God or I'm going to die. She said she can't believe in him. I said, look, if we could believe in the goddess and the god and the fairies and the moon and the spirits and all of this kind of stuff, if we could believe in that, you can believe in Jesus. And we can just give it a try, 2 weeks. And if our life isn't 100% better than it is now, then we'll go back to worshiping and following whatever you want. But for right now, I will have to try this. So she said, okay.
Yeah, no harm in trying.
Yeah, we tried it, man. And that was September 7th of the year 2000 that we kind of gave everything over to God, got rid of all that kind of stuff, got in the phone book, and called all these pastors. I'm still kind of, I'm still in and out of this stuff, man. And I said, hey, I need somebody to pray with me. I'm leaving messages on all the answer machines at these churches, called like 15 churches or so. Left those messages. Hey, I think I have demons. Can somebody come pray with me? 15 churches. One of them called me back. Pastor calls me back. Said, hey, I'd love to come pray with you. Pastor comes over, leads me and my girlfriend at the time in prayer, and ends up coming back and forth to our house from church to pick us up, to bring us to Bible studies and bring us to church. And I'll tell you, man, like it was beautiful. It was good, but it was so, man, it was almost like I was in a dream state for the majority of that stuff, of coming out of the doors that I had open, almost like God shutting those doors one at a time. It's a long, hard road out of hell. When you open those doors, man, you're playing with stuff that you can't even see, and so I opened up a lot of doors. When I was doing the witchcraft, I would just lay on the bed and find a book and read. We'd read half of the book. Let's do this one. And I'd open my body up like a Ouija board for spirit communion. If there's any spirits around, come through me and speak to me, like doing all of this stuff crazy, man. And I guess you can say I got possessed, man. And so that was in September 7th of 2000. Got into church, moved back to Alabama, got into church, did the Christian experience thing again. 2000 up to about 2012, I was, having all of these beautiful encounters with Christian ministry. I would tell that story in Christian churches. They would bring me out. I did Christian hip hop as well, and I'd tell my story and, do the music and stuff and do that. But then like my encounters started to get deeper and deeper over the years, to where they would be like otherworldly encounters, but they were beautiful this time. They weren't bad. They weren't negative. They weren't like demons trying to possess me. I would have angelic encounters. I would have encounters where Jesus would come into the room and things like that, and it was just otherworldly stuff. But as we start talking about this kind of stuff at church, they don't like and go out and stargaze. And so I started doing that, stargazing and praying, talking to God, asking God to just from all of my studies of studying demons and studying aliens and angels and angelology and this stuff. It's like, okay, what's going on? I was led to the stars, fasting and praying. And I said, God, if the angels are out there and they're traveling back and forth like the Bible says, they're traveling back and forth from heaven to earth, they're watching over us, the seraphim, the cherubim, all of these different rankings of angels. Let me see one. Let me see one. And I started going out there fasting and praying. I started seeing stuff that started blowing my mind. Stars moving, stuff posing as stars and other things coming, play tag with it and change direction when the other one touches it. Ships flying in and out of Orion. There ended up being like I started having all these stuff during the night, and it's lights in the sky. So you rationalize, okay, what is it? A satellite? Is it this? Is it that? Seeing all this crazy aerial phenomena. It's like, let me see some stuff during the day. If I'm really seeing this and I'm connecting with this, if God is letting me see this, let me see something during the day.
At night it's like, oh, that could be a shooting star or something,
Could
or
be.
a satellite. You don't know. It's like, give me something during the day. I want to see that good stuff.
Yeah, and I had a couple of encounters during the day, man, that was just like the icing on the cake. You know, some of the ships that we've heard about over the years, the cigar ships, I've seen those.
Wow. So how close were these?
The cigar ship was actually me. We were on family vacation in Destin several years back, and I would always be gazing, like mid conversation, I'm looking, trying to see stuff. You know, all that stuff's out there. You just gotta give yourself time to look for it if you want to see it. And I would just, if you're up there, you know what I'm saying, show yourself. I'm trying to make telepathic communication, and they'd say, look over here, and I'd see one, and it wasn't that far out of the atmosphere. The cigar shaped one, it was almost just. It was definitely the height that you would see a plane, but it was just the cigar shaped silver craft that was there. And me and my cousin was on jet skis, and my brother-in-law was on jet skis, and I said, hey, look, because he was into it. I'm telling him my encounters. He's into some of the spiritual stuff, so he's looking for him. And you know, every night we're out at the beach trying to signal. You know, all kind of little techniques. You had James Gilliland on. I was really led into his work some years ago, and you know, when this stuff started becoming real, you needed somebody to talk to. And I couldn't go to the pastor. Hey, I was out there. God showed me these angels flying around, and they communicate telepathically as well. Have you ever had those? They'll run you up out of the church, you know, or pray the devil away. You know what I'm saying? They say, well, that's demonic. We're going to pray it away. Aliens or demons. Be careful. You might get abducted. So all of that stuff started going through my head, right? Because I started studying that from the Christian perspective. And most of the Christian perspective is that anything that you can't explain or they don't already identify, then it's demonic. But started studying that, and then I you know, had more questions, and those people weren't answering it. It was almost like they had an agenda, like just to demonize it. I was like, hold on, well, like some of these encounters are beautiful. Like what about the angels? Like why is the church like so caught up on pointing out demons here, demons there, demons everywhere? Like, it's really okay to brag about these demonic encounters, but when we start talking about the angel encounters in the angelic realm, then they get all kind of weird, like, oh, you know, and they, you know what I'm saying, they don't really like that. So from my encounters that I was having, and then everything, I was tying it all back to the Bible. Like, it was beautiful, man, and it just opened up new levels of revelation and new levels of spirituality for me, and took my walk with Christ and with God to just a whole nother level. And it made it more real to me as well. You know?
And it's all this is pushing us to where we need to go. We're going through those challenges to get us to the next level, and preparing us for the next step. So I want to go to another song here, because I want to make sure we get to some of your songs. You got some good stuff here. We're going to listen to, this is called In the Land of Make Believe, and you actually feature Abraham Hicks. And I thought it was pretty good and appropriate. When you come back, I want to talk about, you just got let go from your job last year, and I want to talk about some of those challenges you went through and how you're overcoming that now, just doing what you like doing the podcast and all that. So we'll see you guys on the other side. Shout out to the chat real quick here. We do have super chats enabled, so if you want to do a super chat, it will get read on air today. So we'll see you guys after a little break here.
It's interesting because what you believe shows itself to you over and over again. Not because it has to, not because it must, not because it's inevitable, and not because it's right. It just shows itself to you. What you believe shows itself to you simply because you believe it. So as you continue to think this thought, then law of attraction shores it up, gathers evidence, brings it right to you, gives you proof of what you believe.
The land of make-believe.
In the land of make-believe, as I travel I unravel many mysteries. Meditate as I raise my frequency, with the heart to embrace the realms unseen. Am I living out my fantasy? Cause the things that I've seen don't seem real to me. I'm blessed, not stressed, many fail to see that I thrive in the land of make-believe. Seeing ain't believing when the eyes could be deceiving. Reveal to me the answers cause I'm searching for the meaning. Think I made all of it up in the midst of my dreaming, and a trance like stay wild, kundalini breathing. Let each breath connect with the inhale. Let it out, then pause as we set sail. With the hands relax, prepare. Hold the volume mudra of air. By this point you should start feeling lighter, and your breathing seems a little louder. Pranayama, now we got you feeling higher. You can feel the Holy Spirit in the kundalini fire. All things coexist in a sacred place. Come as often as you like while you meditate. And through the Abbey at the Lima we control our fate. We can hold the hand of God in the dream state. In the land of make-believe, as I travel I unravel many mysteries. Meditate as I raise my frequency, with the heart to embrace the realms unseen. Am I living out my fantasy? Cause the things that I've seen don't seem real to me. I'm blessed, not stressed, many fail to see that I thrive in the land of make-believe. You ain't living, you ain't never been alive, till you're sitting in the field and try to see E5. Hands up, eyes closed to the night sky. Don't doubt, just believe, see him fly by. Initiate contact of the fifth kind. Light beings 5D and beyond. They've been watching over you the whole time. Seeing synchronicities, follow the signs. No fear, just trust, then you will see aliens, angels, Elohim, ETs. In the Bible, rode in chariots of fire. Angelic, benevolent, Enoch and Elijah. Didn't taste death because they were swept away in a flame by night, cloud by day. What's next is communication, intuitive telepathy and raised vibrations. In the land of make-believe, as I travel I unravel many mysteries. Meditate as I raise my frequency, with the heart to embrace the realms unseen. Am I living out my fantasy? Cause the things that I've seen don't seem real to me. I'm blessed, not stressed, many fail to see that I thrive in the land of make-believe.
And the thing that is so interesting is that law of attraction is doing the same for the weird others with their weird beliefs. So their beliefs are being proved to them too. And then most humans spend most of their life, set out to argue the perfection of their own beliefs against the imperfection of the others, which is not what you planned to do at all. You came to embrace.
I just played the In the Land of Make Believe. You featured Abraham Hicks on that, and that is on your 2018 album you just released. Topics that you cover, I mean, you cover such a wide range of topics in your music. You got 5D, Flower of Life, ayahuasca, ET, aliens, God, Christ, consciousness, astral plane, meditation, synchronicities, angels. You got the whole works there. And then other people you feature on there, Abraham Hicks we just heard, Jordan Maxwell, and Terrence McKenna. So I want you to talk about your music a little bit. You know, how was, do you record that at home, right? And do it all yourself?
Yeah, I have producers who make the beats and stuff, but as far as like writing all the lyrics and recording everything, mixing and mastering is all done at my place here. So yeah, I do that myself. Yeah, just everything I've been experiencing is trying to put it together poetically, like my life's journey. And when I got into some more of the I guess the mystical aspects of my faith or whatever, it opened up a lot more terminology to use, where we don't just have to say angels and demons. There's so many other words. We could talk about jinn. We can talk about the cherubim, the seraphim, the Galactic Federation of Light. You know what I'm saying? All of these different things that kind of fit into spirituality or angels, aliens, all of this kind of stuff. So it kind of opened up a broader, wider vocabulary and just to kind of explain these experiences. So from doing gospel music, like I came out of doing gospel rap, so it just took everything to a whole nother level. And I was influenced by some people, but as far as like stylistically, what I'm doing and what I'm bringing to the table, there's really not a lot of people doing it. It's starting to catch on now. You're starting to see other people being influenced and stuff. So it's really cool to see people.
It is good. I'm not a big rap or hip hop guy myself, but I do like your softer songs there.
Yeah. Those are the ones. Like I don't have a lot of aggressive music anymore. Like the majority of it is something that you can put on and close your eyes and be taken on a journey. And so that's the beautiful thing about it. With sound, music, you're actually able to capture your emotions, your ideas, even what I went through with this whole process and the angelic encounters and stargazing, writing these lyrics while stargazing or seeing this stuff and putting it together and getting it out there to an audience. Other people are having similar encounters as they listen to it and as they have these phrases stuck in their head throughout the day, and they're taking on spiritual journeys just by listening to the music. It's a really powerful way to look at it. We've always, we have albums in our life that have touched us, and we put them on and it takes us to a certain place. We go to that point of pain that person wrote that album, or what we were going through when we heard it for the first time. And so to be able to contribute to that feeling of music and creativity and create something that didn't exist until I took the time to write it and to breathe into it is amazing. So that's essentially the spiritual process behind it. I mean, I get phrases that come to me like in weird scenarios, or I wake up with words in my head and I just have to write them down, or just these weird rhyming words, and I'll say, okay, write that down, and then start building. So the inspiration comes from a lot of different places, and just kind of, I don't channel, like sit down and try to go in and channel it, but I feel like it's influenced by other realms, but as well
right,
as
you could have your guides nudging you and giving you little hints here and there.
Yeah. It's like, do you channel your material? I mean, we can call it that, but I don't sit down and do a seance or something and try to find lyrics,
Let's go into your experience of being let go from your job and how you're dealing with that. So you were a truck driver. Was it 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years. And so one month from the 10th, so 1 month from now would be a year that I was let go. So I was doing that for 10 years and started just, I was okay with the job. I liked the job. My bosses were cool. I mean, I enjoyed what I was doing. I was by myself most of the day, so I got to listen to tons of teachings and coast to coast and whatever I want, and do my own writing and stuff while I'm driving. And I'd be driving for hours on end. But it came to a place where it was like something was supposed to happen. Like there was stuff that was inside of me that I didn't have time to get out anymore, because I was so tired from work, and I'd be working anywhere from 50, 60 hours a week, put it in. So when I got home, I'm just whooped. And I had this, this music, the podcast, and the things that I wanted to do with my life to heal people. But I didn't have time to do it. So there was this restlessness within me. And so that truck cab ended up feeling like a cage eventually. And I felt like, I would battle depression, man. Like, I'm going to be stuck here doing this the rest of my life. What if my dream passed me by? I'm getting too old to pursue this kind of stuff. And, I got to focus on other things and maybe find a new career. But, deep down, that dream was still there. And it was almost taunting me, like, don't give up. Don't give it up. And I sat in tears thinking about this stuff. Like, when do I give up on it? Like, when do you say, okay, that's in the past, grow up. You're not going to be, you're not going to blow up and be this big famous rapper or be able to make a living off of it, because very few people can at this point as far as doing it independently. So I felt something was going to happen, and, doing all the different spiritual, mindfulness meditation, listen to Eckhart Tolle, all of this stuff, focusing on your breathing, spending time in meditation, and everything I've been talking about in my music was like all coming to a head. And I felt it spiritually, but And at the same time, my wife felt something too, because she had some stuff going on with her job, and we felt like something was going to happen. And it seemed like she was going to lose her job, that her job was going to shut down due to funding. So we were trying to prepare for that, and I was trying to work as hard as I could on my podcast and put out music and things like that in my spare time. But ended up happening. I went to work one day, and due to some circumstances, the boss comes in at the very end of the day and says, your services are pretty much no longer needed. Can't do nothing about it. I'm sorry. There's a punch in the gut, but at the same time, I was just like, okay. So got home, told my wife, you don't want to go tell your wife that, especially after 10 years, you're the breadwinner, but I think God had been preparing us, though, you know what I'm saying, because of everything we've been studying and going through. And we felt like there was going to be some type of separation with the job, but we thought it was going to be her. So we took it as a sign, and she knew how depressed I was, and I was like a zombie just because of the work demanded crazy hours from me. And she was just like, well, maybe this is a sign just for you to try to pursue it. So, okay. She was her idea. I said, okay, if you have a piece about it, I'll do it. I'm not going to be bullheaded and say, I'm not going back to work. I'm going to be a rapper, like this pipe dream or something. I'm going to be a rapper. I'm going to be a podcast host. So I'm going to do this. So she had a piece about it, and she's like, well, let's just try it. Let's try to get unemployment for a couple months, see if I can sign up for that. That'll help us out a little bit, and just really hit this thing, because it was always in my back of my mind. It's like, I'm working 50, 60 hours a week for this job that pays this money. What if some circumstances I got to work 50, 60 hours a week podcasting? What if you got to put in 50, 60 hours a week podcasting or writing an album? I only had a couple hours a week. What if I had 50 or 60 hours, So I was like,
I think about that all the time. What if I could put all my energy into the show and do it?
Oh, right. What would happen, man? Because you have this, like, you're getting so much accomplished with a little portion of time, 20%, 30%, 40% of yourself. What if you was able to give it 100% just for 1 week, not months on end, but just 1 week, and that would kind of haunt me, but, I would kind of entertain the fact. But anyway, I'm there now. So she had that piece about doing it. It's still scary. I just lost my job, and I do not make anywhere as much as I did working, writing music. Most of the people are downloading my music for free. You can actually, on your website, you can go and see like how people get to your site. And the number one way most people would get there was free TruthSeekah downloads, free TruthSeekah albums. So they're trying to Google ways to download my album for free. So, music's changing. Nobody pays for music essentially. So it's really, really weird. So I started my Patreon, and just let people know. I said, hey, I have all these different services. I have merch. I have a patron support group, and like people who want to fund my work. And if you believe in the message, like, now's the time to help me, because I'm going to give it my all, and I'm going to give it one last shot. So I made that post. That post is still pinned on my Facebook. So many people just coming out of the woodworks, just supporting the message and being touched by it. And it's insane. It's insane the things that are happening right now. And I use those principles, those spiritual principles, to go into meditation, to go into prayer, or have the psilocybin mushroom experience and see that person who's really there deep down within, to go out and those dreams that are there. I don't think God gave us those dreams to taunt us and to torment us. Like, we're supposed to manifest that stuff, you know what I'm saying? Make that stuff come to pass. And with these things that I've studied over the years, the whether it be the law of attraction, the secret, just universal law in general, seed time and harvest, and understanding that consistency is key. And that became my mantra: consistency. Don't stop. Because in the past, I would do the podcast, and I would do it I'd booked 2 months worth of shows, and I'd do it, and we'd have thousands of people listening. And then I'd quit because of my work, and I'd get sidetracked or have this other cool idea that I could probably make some money doing, or whatever the case is. And so I'd always get sidetracked. So the podcast would just go up and down. I've been podcasting off and on since like 2010, when we just called it a radio show. So when it happened with my job, I've just been consistent. We hit over 100 episodes, and we're just still running, doing 2-3 episodes a week. And people's lives are being impacted, man. People's lives are being changed by the music and by the podcast, and they kind of go hand in hand. And it's awesome now to be able to see how, like, you know, I think at the beginning most people were listening to the podcast because they enjoyed my music, and so I break down the principles that are in the music, or I got to interview a lot of the people who I sample, like you heard Abraham Hicks. Haven't interviewed her yet, but a lot of the other names I have on multiple occasions: James Gilliland, Jordan Maxwell, Trisha McCannon, Santos Bonacci. All of these people I've been learning from for years, and now they're my peers, you know, and they're coming on my show for interviews, and it all works hand in hand. So now I have this whole fan base who are just like into the podcast. They don't even know I rap. Like, they just are into the podcast. So it's beautiful to kind of blend the two, to introduce the people who are into the music to the podcast, and introduce the podcast listeners to the music. And it kind of works hand in hand, because I'm like, during those shows, I'm breaking down the lyrics to my songs, and interviewing the people who are featured on, and just picking people's brains. And so with the law of attraction, man, being mindful, I try to like go above and beyond, letting people know that what I'm doing, being transparent and open with it, and letting them know that they can do it too. Because it was like this burden that I couldn't, you know, a strong burden that I couldn't live out my passion, that it was just this dream that existed somewhere and I couldn't do it, and it would kill me. And then I would go out into the world, and I would see other people who were just by default a truck driver, or by default the manager at Wendy's, or whatever the case is, or they're changing oil or changing tires for 40, 50 hours a week. They don't want to do that. Like, when they were kids, that wasn't their dream. And so the mindfulness, the meditation, psilocybin encounter mixed with the book, The Alchemist, like, it births something within you that you're not going to be fulfilled with just going and punching that clock. If you have a dream, you have a vision, you have a book in you, whatever it is, a song, a CD, like, you're going to be ripping at the seams to get that stuff out. And so it kind of did that to me. It cured my depression and the stuff I was going through, but at the same time, it lit a fire within me to pursue it. And it could cause depression if you don't. Like, if you're going into the ethers, if you're going into the spirit realm, you're meditating, bliss, you have this vision, I'm going to do this, I'm going to reach these people, my podcast is going to do this, whatever vision that you get when you go in, and you're not taking the right steps to bring that into this reality, it can drive you insane. So, but it works. It works. If you do the steps, it works. And everything, I've just been open with it. And not just me, like, all of my friends, I'm being open. They're doing it. They're pursuing their dreams. A buddy of mine, I always got it. He just released his first book. Drew Gower had him on my show. He's a good friend of mine. He went through this journey with me. He read The Alchemist, did the psilocybin. He just dropped 200 pounds. He was 400 pounds. Now he's he's under 200 now. And this is through the same type of belief system, and encouraging one another, and just being there, that, you know, the dream's not in the past. It doesn't just exist as a pipe dream to torment you, that we can have the things that we want, and we can manifest them in this reality.
I think that's well said. I want to get to your other song here, because the show's starting to go kind of long, and I do want to get to phone calls, folks. There's a new phone system that TruthSeekah just gave props up. I'm going to try that. That was actually causing the problem on the live stream. That, interestingly enough, I think it was my phone, but whatever. Let's listen to Solar Boat, and then we'll come back and take some phone calls. So see you on the other side, folks.
thanks. In my method, there's a message. In your presence, I feel safe. I'm a blessing, never stressing. That's the essence of your way. I'm amazed as I gaze at the beauty of your face. And your grace takes away all the pain that I face. In the weight of your glory, I can see a brighter day. I see my dreams manifested in the lessons of the saints. And all things work together, so I'm gonna be okay. Yea, though I walk through the valley, walking not faint as you carry me through the midst of my journey. Though the road ahead, it seems scary. Though the struggle is real but momentary. Just a glimpse and it's all temporary. Peculiar yet ordinary. Building character, this is necessary. Spring, summer, winter, fall, God, I need you. Facing a decision that is hard, I need you. Mind made up yet flawed, I need you. Just let go of the facade, I need to. In my weakness, your strength is made perfect. And my pain is turned into purpose. Of this one thing, I am certain. In the end, it will all be worth it. Yeah. As I sail away into a higher plane, your love, it takes me away.
All right, folks, that was Solar Boat by TruthSeekah. He's joining me right now. We have a great discussion going. I do want to put the phone lines up. We're going to start queuing you guys in. This is a new phone number. We're going to try this. So 1724 444 7444, and you do got to put a caller ID in 146509 pound, and we'll get you queued up and get you on the air. That's 1724 444 7444. All right, so while they're queuing in, yeah, you just touched briefly on some of the guests you had on. You had Carrie Cassidy, Jordan Maxwell, James Gilliland, Bridget Nielsen, and also Jay Gordon, you said from the band Orgy. You were really excited about that one. So let's talk a little bit about that and how...
Had to rub it in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Jay Gordon.
I got to get Bridget Nielsen on myself. I want to talk about the hybrid children with her, but...
Yeah, no, the Jay Gordon one, man. I've had all those names on, and they're all beautiful conversations. But at the end of the day, like the Jay Gordon one is the one that slips away because, like, I didn't back up that interview, and so actually last year my YouTube channel got shut down. I was like, I think approaching like 8,500 subscribers. And the channel got pulled. All my channels got pulled, and I lost a bunch of interviews. And one of the biggest ones that was near and dear to my heart was the Jay Gordon interview from the band Orgy. I was a big Orgy fan as a kid, or as a teenager, and lost the interview. Got to talk to him, pick his brain, talk to him about paranormal stuff and spirituality and really cool stuff, because I don't think any interview exists out there with him doing that. So ended up losing that when my channel got shut down. I tried to do everything I could to find that or get the channel reinstated, but YouTube did that. So anyway, that was a year ago. But yeah, I've been able to talk to the people I've been listening to. And that was the beautiful thing about it. Like, I would be driving that truck even just years ago, man, probably 2010 or so, listening to Jordan Maxwell and on Carrie Cassidy's show, Project Camelot, and all of those names. I'm a fan of their work. I appreciate what they bring to the table. And now, like, I'm like, man, why don't you ask them this? Like, I'm, listening to these interviews, and it's like, man, if I would love to talk to this person. They kind of give you just a piece of it, then they jump to another subject. It's like, man, I want to pick his brain. Like, what did they look like? Telepathic communication. How did it sound? Like, can I do it? You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
exactly how I felt too. I was like, God, why didn't they ask him this? Why didn't they ask him that? Now you can, as long as you can get him on the show.
And I did, man. I was able to have those people on the show. And Jordan Maxwell, man, he was promoting my work. I have it's just insane, man, just to know where I came from. And years ago, just even with that law of attraction, 2010, working in that work truck, and then, listening to Coast to Coast or listening to Carrie Cassidy, Project Camelot, all these big names, hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views. It's like, you know what? One day she's going to interview me. One day I'm going to be on her show. And I'm going to talk about my experiences and what I've encountered. One day it's going to happen. And
yeah, that was huge, and it did. That was great.
I spoke into existence.
TruthSeekah. Just a second. It's my fault. All right. It should be on.
Yeah, Shane, are you there? I mean, Dan, are you there,
yes.
Dan?
Yes, sir. I'm here. How you doing?
Okay.
Who is this?
This is Laz. How you doing? I was on the other day.
Okay. Yeah, great.
How you doing?
You got a question
nice
for TruthSeekah?
Yeah. In his experience, I had an experience like when I was 12, always traumatic with the spiritual world. Did he ever have anybody that was involved with the spirit world before he had that encounter, or was this instigated by his behavior or the things that he followed?
Definitely, man. Well, I would say, one thing about having those encounters when I was a kid, when I had those entities, laying on my chest in the middle of the night. I was living in Louisiana, and my mom, my grandmother, like all the moms there back when I was a kid, they all practiced some form of voodoo. They would burn candles in the house. And so they all would do little spells and enchantments and stuff. So they was already tapping in to the spirit realm in some shape or form when I was a kid. So it kind of leads us to this thing, is to understand what are we entertaining? Like the things that we're doing, like what's going on in the next room with your children,
Yeah, my parents forced me to put the 13 necklaces on and blood sacrifice and everything, but I was able to blow all that out. But it took a lot of work, though. And let me tell you, what saved me is I went straight head on into Christianity, and my mother did too. So we both left that aside. But yeah.
Oh man, it went down. Well, it's weird. This I could see this buffer go down again, and now it's back up. So evidently, I'm gonna have to figure out some other way to do this, or go back to the old system I had where I can't queue people in. I like the queue on here.
Yeah, I know, right?
If it's not gonna work, it's oof.
No.
Let's try one more. We'll go to the caller in Washington. We'll see how this goes here. You're on the air.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air with TruthSeekah.
Hi, TruthSeekah. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
Glad you're on the show.
I had a very similar experience with the guy in the top hat and the trench coat. When I was a kid, we were kind of tormented by this entity for quite a while when we were kids. It was off and on for, I want to say, 3 or 4 months. And then one night I had a very vivid dream where I thought maybe I was dying. I was going up, and but it was light. It wasn't anything scary, but I got frightened as if I were dying, and then I slammed back down into my body. Do you think there's a correlation there?
Well, we do hear about people slamming when they go off and come back, so that's pretty consistent there. Did you have anything to add, TruthSeekah?
I don't know if I can make those, make the connection there at all. As far as being almost feeling, actually feeling like you're being pulled out of your body by these entities. There could be.
It wasn't
very much could be.
It wasn't actually the dark entity, so it was a completely separate dream. This was actually a dream. We would see the entity in real life, in real time. And then I would go to sleep, and I had this very vivid dream as if these light entities were pulling me up out of my body. And then I woke up, and I came back down and just felt, it felt like a near-death experience, but during sleep.
Yeah, definitely. Whether it really happened, whether they are taking you out of your body and teaching you things in the middle of the night, or they're doing it if your spirit's physically leaving your body, or it's just happening in the dream state as well, teaching you things, giving you downloads like he was talking about earlier. I think it definitely could happen. There's things that would startle you that actually wake you up or scare you that in the dream. A lot of times those type of dreams, if it's something like that, they're kind of continued throughout your life. Like you have those dreams again or similar encounters, but I would say ask them, even at this point, ask them, say, hey, what was going on? If it was the beings out there that had my greatest good in mind and you were communicating me with a kid, am I crazy, or did this happen, or was it a dream? I would, whether it's in a form of meditation, stargazing, I would send that message out there. Expect something good back. Cover yourself in the white light of the Holy Spirit and expect something back. And I guarantee you will get your answer. Either whether it's, yeah, we were talking about those encounters with the top hat men, or the demons, or the laying on you in the middle of the night shadow people. My sister was dating a guy, and they were getting into the spiritual talk and say, hey, do you believe in God? Do you believe in angels? Do you believe in this? And she told her boyfriend about my encounter with these beings laying on my chest as a kid. This guy, first of all, that he's not crazy. He's never looked into this thing. Like this stuff called me out. Like, I had to get into it. He had the encounter and never spoke about it again. And he just started weeping when my sister told him about my encounter. So people have these encounters and they keep it to themselves. A lot. It's something that's been happening with a lot of people.
I really enjoyed your show today. It really actually helped me piece a lot together that happened to me when I was a kid, and there's a lot of step-by-step process that led up to this, and I didn't even realize it until you started telling your story. So now I'm going to meditate on that and see what kind of answers I get.
Heck yeah, that's what it's about. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the call.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you for your call.
All right, we'll wrap the phone up there because I started using sound.
Who was that?
I love it. Yeah, we'll wrap up the show here, I think, because it's been going on for a while. The phone system.
Everybody follow me over here from Discord and Facebook and all that good stuff. Yeah, TruthSeekah.com. You can find all my work there. You can find my music and the podcast. Just go to YouTube and type in TruthSeekah, and I've got a bunch of videos. So there's videos to a lot of these songs, and we're continuing to work on some new material now, trying to get some visuals out to this stuff. So just type my name in, and there's whatever calls you. Got a bunch of videos and stuff. I like to try to create a visual to, to the audio end as well. And there's some pretty cool videos out there we've done over the years. So yeah, check out all my work. I got a whole bunch of stuff out there.
Sounds good. Much appreciated for coming on. We had some hiccups here, but I'll get her pasted together, I think, and make it try to look somewhat nice. But we'll talk to you a little bit later there then.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blessing. Thank you.
Bye-bye. So thank you guys for joining me on Talk is Cheap. Where cheap is talk and talk is cheap. Yet we still have that contest. If you want to do that, call into the number 1-256-510-5234, 1-256-510-K2D4, and leave your suggestion for a change. We may or may not change it. We did film yesterday of us signing the sign, so it's all ready to go. Get shipped out to you when we do that. And we'll see you later, and always keep asking questions. Bye-bye.